6:04. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, citizens' comments. Anybody on Zoom? No? No, I can go quickly. Educational update.
We had a wonderful PD day today. The high school is very busy preparing for our NEAS visit on March 5th and 6th, so they were engaged in that. The teachers were looking at interim assessment data today, which was very fun, and then others were working on curriculum, so it was a very full day.
Questions for the superintendent? If not, we'll go to the presentation discussion.
Okay, I suppose we should start with what we're gonna call the presentation. So we wordsmith, Danielle and I, and this is what we have here, so I don't know, and then we could just put budget, I mean, but we were trying to in a roundabout way get around that, so I don't know if any of these appeal to you, or you would like us to call it something else.
I like the spending plan because it's
what it is.
it's what it is, but that's my opinion.
Everybody,
Anybody
Proposed,
feel
yeah.
strongly one way or another?
I don't like funding requests and I don't like anticipated expenditures. So number one, it is.
Well, number one has proposed spending and number two has school district spending.
I like purpose.
Supposed.
Really proposed.
Just like it is, right here.
Yep.
Sounds good.
okay.
Well, that was easy.
Change that one.
Moving right along.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 for 1.
Okay, so the first few slides are the same. We didn't make any adjustments to those. We get to slide number 8. We remembered to put town planner consultation on grants on there. In slide 9, we highlighted the year that we had that high rate of inflation, and then, you know, what the indication someone had mentioned, maybe we should highlight that one. The budget driver sheet, that would be slide 10. We just kind of reformatted that to be a little bit clearer. Slide 11. I don't think we did anything too, right, Danielle?
We just made the green color.
Yeah, the color.
And the numbers fit better, I think, if I remember correctly.
Right. And the biggest change is that special education slide. Even though it's a meaty slide, all the numbers there are accurate. I know Chris worked with Bill on some of the information that we put on there, but right now it's pretty accurate as to you know, the students, the staffing, and then you know, the Bradley program, and then of course the 7-year trend for students requiring more restrictive setting at the bottom. So that's all updated from last year's slide. It's small, but it does have a lot of information on there.
And what will it look like on a presentation? It'll be big enough to read, I assume.
Danielle can pull it up.
And it's also some, as we're going through these slides during the presentation, you can point and say, you know, it's a lot of stuff here, but I will tell you where all these things are if you want me to. And
on the right pie chart on slide 12,
Yes.
tuition is blue and transportation is blue,
Yeah, I already changed that to orange.
but it's blue on mine.
Yeah, it should be orange.
Oh, you got
It's still. kind of
Thank you,
just-
Justin. That's a good catch.
I mean,
I think that's legible.
Yeah,
It's a lot of information, but it's legible. And it's very important.
Then we adjusted slide 13. We put the M to note a million, and then we put the number of students in each school that was requested. and then how many special ed students the total operating cost of special ed encompasses. I don't believe we did anything with slide 14. Except that at the bottom, I think we put in red the total reduction over 9 years. That number.
Can we, on slide 14, can we do this blue stripe that was on slide 9 for 2022?
2023, yeah.
Or-
You
It was
wanna cover
FY
it?
2022 was the blue stripe on slide
Mm-hmm.
9. Okay. Just to parallel the two, that it was the highest rate of inflation. We did get the smallest reduction that year, but since then we've kind of made up for it.
Um,
Just so they can draw a parallel.
Department budget highlights, we didn't touch. The next one, 16 and 17, we did. The formatting was funky, so Danielle put it in a chart form. And the other thing that we changed was the loss of part-time secretary at Thompson Middle School. We put student daily attendance must be reconciled quickly to ensure student safety. Need to know who's in the building, so we changed that rather than there's gonna be a lag of response time, because that isn't, that's true.
Mhm.
That is a true statement.
Going back to slide 16.
Yep.
Line 2, 30 students not reading on grade level. Are not receiving intensive reading support, falling further behind their peers. Is that 30 students in one grade? Is that 30 students
Students in the middle school,
amongst all 4 grades?
yeah,
There's no disparity, be it 5th grade or 6th grade.
no, it's across the board.
Okay.
Because what's happened is that now that there's one reading teacher, she's spread over the four. Before, last year, it was 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and they each had their students in, 2 grade levels. Now it's the one person stretched over 4. We're hoping to restore that one with a grant, with the Alliance grant, trying to stretch some dollars there.
Is there any way to get 16 and 17, much like 15? So, in terms of getting both things on one sheet, I think a longer list seems more. I don't know. And
Like,
the smaller
just-
font, like stretch, like do like you did before, like have, like, just like 15. So like have like maybe a smaller column on the left and then a longer column, right?
and I
For your description. to
Yeah, I
make
think
it all
you-
fit.
I think if you do the how did the $1 million, I
As
think
the
you do that as a
title.
title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then all the rows would be thinner.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So you want to squeeze it on one slide?
Much like 15,
Yeah.
so like the
Yeah.
smaller font.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
I think even if it turns into an eye chart. I think it's better to get it all on one slide. I think.
Is
I
it-
don't know, I'd rather see multiple slides just to get the point across. There's a
lot of
lot of stuff we
Yeah.
lost. You know what I mean? You could either do it that way, or if I had 3 pages of stuff I lost, that's pretty impactful.
So I think we do it that way. I think we try to break it up more by school. If we're gonna do it on multiple. slides.
Mm,
Yeah,
So I think,
that's.
yeah.
a lot of
across
district-wide
multiple
stuff.
schools,
Right.
yeah.
I don't have a problem doing it the other way. It's just that I hate seeing stuff all squished together and. I mean, the presentation will be legible and it'll be explained as we go through, but if anybody's trying to follow along. Like an old guy like me, you're just not gonna see it.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
again, it's up to you guys.
Play around with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to get, if you did get it on one page, I wouldn't want the font to be any smaller than what you have in 15. You know what I mean? And if it's not possible, then it's not. Okay. But- Okay.
Yes, Don.
Just to compare to 15, I think you've got 8 rows on 15, I think you've got 11 or 12 on the combination. 17. So why don't Danielle and I play with it, and if it doesn't look good on one, we'll stick with 2.
Sounds good.
All right.
As far as slide 18, we're still working on slide 18. Bill is, needs to adjust some of those
Actually,
numbers.
Linda, I didn't have a chance to.
I
tell you.
didn't
After you
see.
spoke this afternoon.
Yeah.
I went back in and took a look at the budget. And I adjusted those numbers. I also
Oh, thank
adjusted
you.
the scale to make it fit a little bit better. So I think this is, is a realistic depiction of those different buckets, the wish list. I renamed capital to capital and repairs because otherwise it wasn't a lot of capital.
Okay,
So you essentially see the wish list going away from the left-hand column to the column in the middle. And then from there, the only change between the column in the middle and the column on the right was the drop in the health insurance.
correct.
That accounts for going from 20.3 to 20.2 in the required section.
And what disappeared from the required section from the wish, the big one, the 20.4 to the 20.3?
It's rounding.
Okay.
I have to go.
I'm just, because I know, someone might ask, I'm just curious, because if we're saying it's required,
Yep.
How could we cut it?
I can make it so that those are both at 20.4 or 20.3.
Yeah, I just think like unless we have a reason why something got, like you said, the healthcare that you can.
Sure.
And then the capital repairs went from 1.4, 1.3, is that rounding again, Bill?
That is actually a reduction of it was cutting Bill back to his prior year budget and removing the playground. They are if I had to point it to the two biggest pieces of
Yeah.
that reduction.
Yeah, I think as long as those are in the speaker's notes,
What's
that's
that?
explainable there.
Does, I don't oppose this terminology, but I'm just asking, play devil's advocate, does everybody like the terminology wish list? I just didn't know what else it would be, but.
That makes it sound superfluous.
Correct, right, and I don't know what the suggestion would be, but.
Could we call it enrichment?
Enrichment for what? Where?
Well, you have,
Slide
at
18,
the
wish
slide 18,
Yeah.
the top, that 1.9
Yeah.
is indicated as wish list.
Well, that's what we coined it last time.
Right, I know.
Right.
That makes it sound like the teachers are asking for golden staplers and.
Yeah,
so-
I agree with you there. Teacher requests,
Requests, supplies.
Or,
curriculum enhancement,
Getting us to where we should
Yeah,
be.
ideal, something, I don't know,
I would put school-based requests.
Raw budget.
Yeah, no, school-based
That's
requests,
probably the best.
school-based request sounds good,
Yeah.
because
They all
then
got
again, you can explain that. That it's not a wish list, these are things that we truly need, that were cut because of constraints or whatever you
Yep.
think of to say.
Okay. The next slide is, I captured our notes when everyone was talking. And I tried to put it in a visual, Danielle actually created the visual, but I drew a picture and she tried to capture it. So it was really to highlight that the only part of the budget that we can and what it impacts, obviously the student supply, field trips, curriculum, all of those things. And then putting that pie into that, these are the things that directly impact the budget. So I don't know if I captured what you were trying to get there in this slide.
I think it makes it clear that, when we're having to reduce, that's the only pot that we can go to. And
Right,
maybe-
when somebody arbitrarily, sorry, Jesse,
Yeah,
when somebody arbitrarily says, oh, let's cut $1 million. Okay, it's $1 million out of the 3.2. It's nothing out of the 18,
Right.
so. The willy-nilly cutting of arbitrary numbers has got to stop.
And I wouldn't care if they threw out a number, if
They had
With some reasoning,
justification, right,
something,
justification,
or, you know, you came to a meeting, you understand what we're doing.
right,
And this is what I think, not just, it's got $1 million,
Yeah.
because that's what they do.
That's what they did.
Did we determine, trying to look at two slides here next to each other, 18 and 19, looking at them next to each other. We've got 20.2 required. But it's 18.2. On 19. Are they the same things or am I missing something?
I don't think they're the same things. I think there are some pieces of the red pizza slice that are in required. I think there's overlap between the two. This, I think if I remember correctly, this was our variable cost versus fixed cost.
Okay, I just want to be able to explain, I think, knowing what that is to explain it.
Because if we had a CPA in the audience and saying, these things should match.
Or even if we have a layman in the audience who's saying, wait a minute, you're saying that these are required here, and you're saying these are obligated here. So
should we decide if we should make that match now, or
well,
no?
I think Bill was saying they don't match because they are two different things.
If they match, I would say delete slide 19.
Right.
I think you were trying to make a different point, although it's subtly different, and you might consider deleting 19. But I'm a big slide deleter from way back, so. Right, but you guys are.
Well, I think if we could get the point across on slide 18, that slide 19 gets across, then I'm all for it, but I don't think we can.
Well, because 18 is showing what the progression of the budget was from when it started to now.
And then
Whereas slide 19 is, this is what we can't touch, this is what we can touch.
And when you make $1 million or $500,000 cut,
This
it's
is where
got
it's gonna come from.
15%.
I think they're both pretty impactful.
Yes.
And I would hate to see either go. But just, should that question come up, why don't they match? Just gonna be able to let them know
Like
why.
that.
I'm still leaving all of them. Yep, put that down.
Curricular.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any more 18, 19, are we good?
I don't think so, yeah.
So 20 came out of, I was checking around in EdSite. And I just stumbled across outplaced students, so then I just had to go down that rabbit's hole. And then started to look at the per pupil expenditure for Thompson, Putnam and Killingly. And it just pretty remarkable. We always have to remember that it's the intensity of services for students with disabilities, especially in outplacement. However, Bill and I were talking about this afternoon. There has got to be a significant reduction because of the Bradley program, because the numbers are so far apart. So we are seeing benefits in having that program here, and our actual pure pupil expenditures for special ed students are less than. So all of these things that are happening in the district are starting to play in our favor.
I love this slide. The only thing we might consider is maybe moving it closer to Chris's slide 12.
Move to slide 12, yeah.
And I was playing with the numbers a little bit after we spoke, Melinda.
Yeah.
And this might be a nice point for the presentation. If Thompson was running at Putnam's rate or at Killingly at Putnam's rate, it'd be almost 600,000, 550,000 more. With our students, with 24 students, if we were running at Killingly's rate, it would be almost 800,000.
I think that's huge.
So that's really, that really, at minimum, right? Bradley program is $500,000 a year in value. Just based on that one statistic.
Should we clarify the title, just it says per pupil expenditures for outplaced students? I mean, we know that means special ed, but I don't know that.
Special education outplaced
Yeah,
students, yeah.
just so that it's clear, these aren't.
Yeah, because people might.
Jenna
think
going out
it's
to Killing
bad.
Me, right? Yeah,
Moving.
right.
Melinda, was this in your investigation into my question from the last week?
Where, it just popped into my email because Ed site went public with some more data. Chris actually sent out his information, but I had to go there. And I was pretty surprised. I was actually pretty surprised and happy to see that number. And I said, wait a minute, what's causing that discrepancy? It's got to be some of the, we all complain about adding paras because many of them are non-budgeted. We complain sometimes about adding RBTs, but if you start to think about it, they're the biggest bang for our buck because then the students are not going out place and they're not getting on a bus. We're not paying that out of district tuition. We're servicing the kids in the least restrictive environment, which we should be doing anyway. So I was happy to see that data, but yes, that did tweak my interest when the Ed site thing came. I'll send everybody the link because poking around in there is some pretty interesting information.
So, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question about slide 12, actually, when you. It says that there's 3 teachers at the middle school, so is there not a special ed teacher for every grade?
No.
No.
That is why we did add one and we're hoping IDEA funding is going to be able to cover that. So there should be one at every grade because it's like that in the elementary. What happens is when they get to the middle school, believe it or not, they get less service time from a special educator. And we've been running that way for quite some time. And right now, because of the students coming up from Mary R. Fisher, who still have an IEP when they get to the middle school, they're having to service more students and they're stretched to the max at this point. So they are literally begging us to try to figure out how to put in that position back. And so we believe that we can use our IDA funding and make sure that we pull in another special educator if we can find one, but.
On slide 20 in the speaker notes, you need to make sure you notate that while our PPE is lower, that means we're also seeing a lower reimbursement in the extra cost.
So the commissioner had every third Friday, we have a commissioners meeting. And so the topic for the last meeting was actually excess cost. And what happened with the excess cost is every year the legislature puts an amount for excess cost in a bucket. And that's a finite amount of money. Every year the districts put in for their reimbursement. This particular year, 23-24, districts asked for $52 million more than what's in that bucket. And so that dropped our percentage threshold to 71%. We haven't seen that low number since 2020. I think our high over the last couple of years was 80%, but that's why we were reduced because the reimbursement request exceeded the amount that the state put aside. And so there was a misnomer out there that, we got cut, even though that bucket increased by some percentage this year, and I forget what it is, it's still, the request exceeded, and they have no way of knowing, right, when they put that number together, what these reimbursement requests are going to be. But you can see that more and more districts are needing to get reimbursed, or more and more students are going outplaced by that scenario. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. They had mentioned that in the meeting. So
Interesting.
Because I can see, because that's one of the arguments that we usually have, is that our special education costs are higher than other districts.
correct.
So I can see certain people taking this and saying, well, see, they lie about that. But if we have the documentation showing we're not getting reimbursed as high as Killingly is, as high as Putnam is.
I think Chris has that data by district. I'll take a look at it.
Doesn't need to be in the slide,
No,
but something to
I just
Speak
need
be able to
know
point
it.
back to.
Yeah.
Cause
Okay.
That'll come up.
I think maybe one thing to potentially also add to the speaking notes for 20 is some of that data that you had sent in the email about district percentages,
Yeah,
because I think that's a very enlightening. When you put that number compared to what the districts are spending on special education, it's actually very eye-opening.
Hmm.
Because although we have a similar percentage to districts around us, we are spending considerably lower per student, not only here in the outplace, but even in service in-house, we're spending less per student than other districts are when you look at those numbers. So we are being very efficient with our special education dollars here in Thompson. We're stretching every dollar, if you will, as best we can. So when people talk about frivolous spending of dollars, I think that's pretty clear when you can actually do a comparison. But that was from some of the data that you had sent over, and I think that speaks a lot to it. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to look at those.
Looked at it, yep.
Bill, do you want to keep going?
Yeah.
So, the next two slides are our grants. The grants we got competitively. So those are not allocated amounts. We have to go and get those grants. And then, the federal grants that we receive, every grant has, especially with the federal grants, they're very restricted. And then even the competitive grants, depending on what the grant proposal says, it's restricted to, we just don't get 282,000 and say, okay, we can go buy Chromebooks. We have to do the high dosage tutoring. So, we brought in a lot of money. The federal grants are, an allocation, and then I just put a little blurb about what it actually pays for.
Can we just do it? And I don't, this is up to the group here. We do a total at the bottom of each one of
Please.
these pages.
Yes, I wondered if you wanted a
Yeah,
total. Yeah.
Cause I'm looking, I did a little quick math in my head, the competitive grant's over $1 million.
Yeah.
Maybe on both, or definitely on 21. Again, just for layman kind of understanding, should you put underneath, under the title competitive grants, that, these are grants that have to be solicited and have to be used as directed. You know what I mean? Just so that people understand that these aren't things that have just been handed to us. These are things that the employee, you guys
It's
have
taken time away
taken
from
time
them,
to find.
something else to go
And then you
find.
receive them, they have to be used as directed. This can't be used to supplement, I guess.
The same with all the title grants, though.
Right.
There's all sorts of rules around all these titles.
So I don't know if there should be like a little sign print somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want people to assume that these totals that they see in the end is totals that.
Comes off the bottom.
Right, that is not, that could have been used just
But
to.
just
for
the word
general-
competitive kind of explains, and then a narrative would be easy, but I think that's a good point is
Can't be used.
they can be used for what they're, when you apply for it, you use it for that.
In
If
other
it's
words,
reading or if it's whatever.
they're restricted to grant whatever, and can't offset the BOE budget.
Correct.
These can supplement the budget,
That's the
but
word.
that's,
Supplement.
and then the federal grants are. What's that word? Not competitive, what's the one I'm thinking of, these are like guaranteed,
Like allocations.
yeah, right. These we apply for, we get these.
We
but
still
they-
have to apply and we still have to report.
And
Yeah.
you still,
Mhm.
you still have to use it for what it's.
So,
Correct.
yeah, so I think what's important with both of these, and I think it was something that Heather was bringing up, was that there are administrative impacts on both of these. Somebody has to apply for them, somebody has to report for them. And to everybody else's point, if it's a right to read grant, it can't be used for busing for a field trip.
Correct.
And I would use that as an extreme in the narrative.
Okay,
If it's a right to read, it can't be used for busing for field trip or busing for athletics. It has to be used for what the grant was applied for.
In the past, we used to do these kind of things for St. Joseph. Do we do any for Marionopolis?
no,
Not anymore.
not anymore. They declined.
I remember the one they declined. I just didn't know if there was other federal grants that we did for them.
The Bradley program, because they're a school within our school, they're a standalone school. A lot of these grants like Title I, II, IV, I don't believe IDEA, they all, they get a percentage for non-public. And so they do get some of that money.
But it doesn't come through here.
It does,
Oh,
it
it
does
does
come
come
to
through.
us, yeah, and then we have to,
Oh,
Farm it
so
out.
that's something else that would,
yeah, there is a.
there's a,
administrative impact
there's a
on it.
time and cost to that. Whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, there's a cost to it.
There's a lot of hands in these grants, obviously, at the end of the day, our friend Bill there, juggles all the dollars, but, you know, the programming of it, I do a lot, but, Chris does, Lindsay Calarco, let me see, I'm looking down the list. You know, we all, oh, and Heather, Bruno, our ESL teacher, so everybody gets their hand in this, you know, either writing narrative or trying to figure out the budget with me, but at the end, Bill is juggling the expenditures and drawdown, and there's a lot on the financial side with these grants.
And I think something on top of this is aside, but similar to what we're talking about here. There are a lot of teachers that go out and self-solicit and self-fund,
They do,
right?
yeah.
So although these are big,
Those are not
you know,
fair.
there's a $500 one at the top. I just saw a teacher in the elementary school that did a $280 donor funded,
The donor choose.
the donor choose.
That's what I suppose I should add that, because on the competitive grant, because it was competitive, we got 26,000, you heard Louise speak
Yeah.
about
Right,
that.
you have those, but you also have the ones that they've been
They
doing,
do
Mrs.
themselves.
Jazersky had 9 or 10 of them funded from January of last year to January of this year for different projects for her classroom.
Mhm.
And I think what's interesting,
She markets herself a lot.
Yes, she does.
Cause I've heard some people say, like, some people are getting more and it's not necessarily fair, but she puts like a great deal into
She does.
getting those, so.
and it was funded all out of a single donor out of Massachusetts, according to Donor Choose. So. But I think. Our teachers should be focused. I'm so happy that our teachers are doing this. They're going out and they're sourcing the funding to do the curriculum that they need to do. I don't
Have to.
discount from that at all, but they shouldn't have to. For a $270 program and you see the comments under it and what the program is, we shouldn't have to. That's something that we should be funding as a town and as a Board of Education.
And most of this goes, a lot of it goes back to all these unfunded mandates that are put on us every year. And it just takes a lot of extra time and money to do all of this stuff.
But I think it's important to note that our teachers. Because teachers sometimes get the bad rap, right? That, you know, teachers aren't doing enough for the students. Teachers aren't this, teachers aren't that. You know, oh, teachers only work 180 days a year. When they're working, they're not only teaching, but they're also having to now solicit independent sources to fund their curriculum. So that they can keep their students engaged.
I'm sure they're doing a lot of that at night on their own time.
They do.
Everybody good with those two?
Yep.
Last one.
And then also, know whether or not, I mean, I didn't know if any of these slides you want to dump in an appendix or leave them as part of the presentation. Bill, thank you for flipping the money over. I had it opposite, but this came right from, you know, the negotiation binder that we get, Bill. This came right from Steve's numbers. So you can see where Thompson falls, and this is prior to the new contract. right? But this is where we were falling.
But everybody else has a new contract too, so,
It depends.
well, not
I
everybody.
won't have that
Yeah.
updated
Right.
information.
It still sets,
I guess I could put the date, that this would be 22-23 data.
So where's Putnam?
Yeah, where's all
what's-
the
Not
local
in
people?
our
Only-
DRG.
They're not in.
This is our demographic group.
No.
So these are towns that are like ours with the same subset of people.
no
Basic
businesses.
size.
No businesses,
Make that part of your talking. too.
yes,
People are-
Yeah.
that needs to be in the speaker's note because
I
some,
wouldn't know
that's the question we're gonna get is, well, what's Putnam paying their people? Well, I can tell you Putnam's paying their people 20 grand more because,
Still.
yep.
Sorry, what was demographic, what was DRG again?
It's your demographic. group,
Demographic
regional group or
region
something.
group.
Yeah.
Right,
I'll
some of these
let me
towns are.
spell that out.
I think we need to,
Okay.
I think when you,
Well, some
whoever's
are-
doing the presentation can
It's, yeah, those.
speak to that.
That's who they measure us against,
Yeah,
comparative districts.
Yeah, because although they're measuring us against that, the citizens are measuring us against
against
the
our neighbors,
local-
our neighbors.
right?
I can do a Putnam Killen.
Yeah, well, that's easy to do. I can tell you this one Thompson, this BA step 2, you could go to Putnam, it's $10,000 more just for that. As you go up the line, it even gets
Yep.
bigger, but that step was $10,000. And that's a lot when you're a young teacher with a young family and.
Well, at $46,000, $10,000 more, it's
20%, yeah.
Right.
I could do that math right now.
If somebody gave me 20% more to go work someplace else, I'd go.
I can, I mean, I can take,
Did that.
I can take a 20% raise and commute 5 more minutes. Oh, and by the way, I go there because I go to Baker's every morning anyways. Like,
Exactly.
we laugh and we joke, but how many teachers show up with Baker's cups in the morning? I
Yep.
mean, they're down there anyways. I'm not trying to sell it for them, but
Right,
Okay, I'll just make a slide with the other comparatives. In our neighborhood,
Locals, yeah.
local.
Yeah, and the red visually looks great on that, but it doesn't read good on the printout. I don't know if that makes any difference or not.
I think if you're
I
gonna do
agree,
that-
maybe yellow or something where you can.
Yeah,
see it a little
white
better.
letter.
white
White
lettering.
lettering, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, something.
I think the red is impactful
Yeah.
Yep.
with a white lettering background.
Or just make it bold in those 2 bars, so you can see it a little
Yeah.
bit better.
Okay,
Anybody else have any comments on this last slide?
I don't on this last slide, but I had a couple on the. Going
Okay,
back a couple.
all right.
I just was comparing it against my other one from last meeting and there was just a couple of things I did
problem.
here.
Which one?
So on the number 9, I had written down that someone had wanted to potentially consider the compounded rate instead of what we had or in addition to. I don't know if that is still something we wanted to do or even what that is.
yeah, I wrote that. too,
Right
and
there, that's why we shouldn't do it.
Okay,
And it's busy enough as it is, and I think if we add compounded, although it would probably further the argument. I think people are gonna be like, they're just pulling stuff out of thin air.
Yeah.
also on this slide, someone had commented that they wanted to potentially maybe see the years we had multiple referenda and what the cost was to the town.
Well, we added the
Oh, we added
number of referendums.
second-
Oh, did you? I didn't see that. Is it- Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and I think in the speaker notes, we can note that it's 5,000.
Every
For
time.
referendum.
About 8 to 10.
Oh, is it?
I think.
How did we have 0 referenda in 2021?
It was
There
the
was-
pandemic.
It was an automatic, we didn't vote, on that one.
We didn't vote. The
they set the,
Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen said it. God forbid you were 6 feet close to somebody back then.
On number 10, I had in my notes that under healthcare increase, we wanted to say anticipated.
Oh, right.
I had two that you were gonna combine them all to one under contractual salary, is that not?
Mhm. No, we wanted to leave
No,
them
I'm not
separate.
sure that, but it's at least total over here.
Yeah, and I did have under the non-contractual salary increases, that someone had said maybe to put in parentheses, number of employees.
Yes, I have. that too.
Just so people don't think that that was somebody's increase.
And culinary pathways. Install
Okay. I think that was it. And then just out of curiosity, would we be able to have, as an appendix or something that really scary, plant maintenance, what needs to get done?
A 5-year plan.
From, yeah, the 5-year.
Yeah, so we have one, but it's not updated. And I talked to Bill about that. He does have an Excel spreadsheet with all of that, but we've, need to delete the previous years and move stuff forward. So he can put together like a skeletal, but, to have it completely, it depends, right? If the HVAC thing doesn't go through, then that's a whole impact.
Right.
That is gonna impact the next 5 years, so I don't,
But there's something to that, because it is a town building and they have to take care of it,
Mhm.
right? We're just the renters,
Renting.
right?
yeah,
And we take care of a lot of stuff, but it's their building.
true,
So
all right.
if we do need painting or, the roofs are all good now, but. and the
No, not the whole roof. That's what I learned in this discussion. The-
Oh, what?
The whole roof, so remember, we only had a
The ad-
portion of the roof done.
But we had a portion done not too long ago too.
It came up in discussion when we were talking about the 5-year plan that he would have to put roofing, and I had the same reaction you did. We mean roofing.
Oh, I suppose it's been so long that. Someplace needs it now. It is what, 4 acres of roof or something like that?
Yeah, I just think that the having even if it's a bulleted list, just like with key phrases or whatever, and then somehow a loosey-goosey quantifiable. Just to say that, these are all the things that either are coming down the pipeline or really should be probably done this year, but we are only asking for 167K, because that's all we think you guys can stomach. But it doesn't mean that there isn't a whole lot of things that really should be addressed.
I tend to agree with that, and with all these bullets, and it's like, start taking care of some of this stuff now, or, for 4 or 5 years, it's gonna be 2 or 3 times the cost.
Preventative maintenance versus catastrophic repair.
Well, we also have to drop in, the maintenance of the track and the maintenance of some of these other things that we're gonna repair, but, and that would appear in the 2026 and beyond budget.
And we do have lots of fields, and the lawnmowers seem to blow up every year, and there's always issues with that, and the trucks and everything else. This is a big campus.
It
There's
is.
a lot of acreage with the trees that tend to fall down,
Yeah,
and lawns that need to be mowed, and fences that need to be maintained.
Things cost money.
Right.
It's just not, it's just not.
For the
in-
tour, too, Yeah,
Even
hand them the list and let's do the tour, So it's like,
Yeah, it's just not inside the 4 walls. There's a
Right.
lot of property.
And I think on this tour that we're speaking of, on the list. Let's tour the HVAC. Right, let's stop by the boiler room and point out the fact that the things are older than most people who live in this.
looks like a Model A, yeah.
I mean-
Right.
I mean, what you don't know is that there's a significant roof, leak on the roof. In one of the, I guess, equipment rooms that we're gonna have to shut down the heat as soon as the kids leave. And all of that operation room has to be removed to get to this coil that needs to be fabricated because there's no parts available for it. That's one
Yeah.
part of the conversation. And then there's a terrible glycol leak in the middle school. And we can't touch that until we shut the heat off and the kids are gone. And then he lines barrels up this hallway and dumps all the glycol in it and then makes the repair and then sucks it back up into the system. I mean, that, I've seen him do that twice. It takes forever. But that's what has to be done.
And I'm not saying that we put it in the presentation. I'm not even saying that at this point we put it in our speaker's notes. But one of the things we have to be ready to address is the mill rate impact on the track and the mill rate impact on if this grant comes through.
Bill knows that because he showed it to me today. What did you tell me it was?
So what we looked at today was the impact of the bond anticipation notes if we were to get the HVAC and the track and the school security. And it was for next year's budget, it's $248,000. In 2026, we'll be paying principal and interest at that point if everything goes according to plan, so it's a bit higher. It's 4 or 5.
And we're supposed to potentially know next month, right? In March?
We're hoping.
Okay. So before the budget would go to vote, I guess is my point. We might know.
But both of those projects were voted on by the town and they were approved. And I would let sleeping dogs lie because
Yes.
why remind them that, you know, you might be paying a lot more too.
We don't have to remind anyone, it's a line item in the town budget,
There you go.
so.
I wouldn't bring it up
No.
at all.
No, I wasn't saying.
I know, I
would say
know you weren't.
be prepared if the question comes.
We talked about that today because there's what, 1.5 million or around there. I'm trying to remember that number that looked like that impacted the school.
Right.
And then you add the $885,000 increase together, and then people will say, wait a minute. You know, the schools are getting this much money, but really, those other projects were separate.
And go back to this slide, right? None of that mill rate increase can come out of this. This still has to function every single day.
Again, the HVAC is taking care of a town building. It's, yes, it's gonna benefit the school, but it's a town building. The track, it benefits the whole town. Everybody uses it. If people have been up here on the weekend, there's a lot of people that do that. So it's town property.
I haven't had dinner yet, I'm sorry.
Your belly.
Yeah. Getting irritated.
All right, other questions, concerns, comments?
We're gonna edit, we'll send this out to you again
Do we have any more of these meetings planned?
Monday.
Yeah, Monday was, I think, a placeholder if it was, if needed, I think was. I will set up the schedule.
Unless you
I'm ready to I'm ready to approve it, but I don't know about the rest of the group. But
I think
There's
with
just-
those,
there's minor adjustments. I don't think, but I'd be willing to send this to Board of Finance now. With the edits that we're gonna make.
And then we'll get the presentation for that night anyway.
Right, and who don't,
What is it, seventh, right?
yes,
Yeah.
who's doing the
Oh, thanks, it's
Seventh?
after me, yeah.
March 7th,
mhm.
in St. Louis.
We'll let you zoom it.
Hockey. Oh, I am not going to Zoom anything. Zoom. no. All right, so is everyone here, are you happy with this? Does anyone want to make a motion to approve this to send to the Board of Finance?
I'll make the motion to approve it with the adjustments we made tonight.
We have a
I
second.
will second.
Second. Any other discussion on this?
I will send it to you when we make the edits, and then
Yeah.
if you have any feedback, you can just give it to me and we'll fix
Sure,
it.
sure.
I think my only discussion comment is gonna be. The math. Let's double, triple, quadruple check and make sure that the math is good.
Ahead of tonight's meeting, I went through and I checked all the math. So this has been checked. and I will check it again after our edits.
I won't play with the numbers, I promise.
And then the speaker's notes, if those can get included in what we get sent, just so we can make sure that all the speaker notes that we spoke to are in there as well.
Is it you and Linda, you and Kathleen are doing the presentation?
Kathleen usually tells me what slides she's going to take. And then I do some, and then maybe Bill and I can have a conversation, because some of these finance slides, he may be better to speak about than myself, because he knows those numbers better than I. So programmatically, I'm good, but you know, some of those numbers, especially with the healthcare and all of that, you may want to take that. Okay, so maybe the three of us.
Good, all right.
Are there any other board members that want to?
I did it for years, I'm good.
Okay.
If need be, I will take my call to service. If there's any slides that you'd like.
All right, so any other comments on this right now?
No.
So let's vote. All in favor of approving this, sending it to the Board of Finance, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone want to abstain? Passes unanimously. So you'll get us like the final copy. If anybody notices anything, spelling error or formatting error, we can change it before they get it.
And then we'll have, I mean, when we get to March 7th, we'll have non-colored, right, Bill? Or do you want them in color? They're more impactful in color. I don't know. We'll have to talk about whether or not you're gonna let us print in color.
How much does that impact the budget?
It does, actually.
Yes, it is, it's huge.
Very
Yeah.
expensive.
All right, citizens' comments.
Michelle.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor, please say aye.
all right.
So we're adjourned, thank you.
Are we doing Monday or not?